Hey, what's up DIYers? Mike Borders with the Mike Borders channel. Thank you for watching. In the event that your toilet flange is too high above the floor, we're going to show you how to fix that. Let's get started. All right, DIYers, inside the bathroom now, and in front of us is our flange to the toilet, and unfortunately it is too high. It is not flush with the floor. And what we did prior to applying the wax ring and just shifting that toilet onto the flange and bolting it down, we did a dry run. We always recommend doing a dry run when you are replacing a toilet. And what we ran into is once we put the toilet on this flange, it wobbled aggressively because, again, it's not flush with the floor. You see that significant gap in between the floor and the flange? That is way too high. And what we have to do is remove this old flange by cutting it out and then actually cutting the top portion of the exposed plumbing pipe that's down below and installing a new flange to ensure it is flush with the floor. Taking a step back, and the old toilet, believe it or not, was resting on about an inch of grout. And that's definitely an option when installing a toilet onto a flange that is not flush with the floor nor level with the floor. However, we are not going to do that. We're just going to cut this out and put a new one in. And to the toilet, this part right here is what goes inside the flange and down into the plumbing. However, not much clearance right here. And if this was much deeper, it would work perfect. However, unfortunately, most modern and new toilets do not have a deep mold to them and will require the flange to be flush with the floor. What I'll do next is insert some paper towel basically to act as a plug for two reasons. Number one, I do not want to breathe in any sewer gases. And number two, as I cut this flange away to remove it, I don't want any of that plastic going down the drain. With the paper towel in place, what I want to do next is come down below and I want to show you the actual plumbing pipe that comes up out of the ground. As you can see, that pipe itself is not flush with the floor or tile. And we'll start by using this little $5 saw that I purchased at my local Ace Hardware, and I'm just going to begin cutting. First cut is complete. I'll come over a bit and I'll do the same thing. If you got a longer saw, you can actually make one cut here and one cut here to make 4 pieces. However, this is what I'm using. It was only $5. Progress. I've got 3 cuts. I've got a chisel. All I'm going to do is carefully pry up on these cut parts and separate the upper portion of the flange from the inner. And as you do this, just be very careful. The last thing you want to do is crack or damage the inner pipe. That would not be good. You'd be in some trouble. And again, just be careful. As you can see, that is loose. It is making some separation noises. I'll also grab a hammer and carefully tap where I cut. And that should help loosen up these parts. As you can see, I did a number on that one. And again, just carefully pull this out. And here is where we are at so far. This is the pipe that comes out of the ground and floor and through the tile. You do not want to break that. And as you can see, the inner portion of the flange that goes down inside the pipe broke off a bit, which is good because I want that out of there. I'll continue this process and remove this portion of the flange. Another portion is off, and I am now going to go back to my little saw, go inside, and I am going to cut the inner portion of the flange insert that still remains. And as I cut, I'm only cutting through the inner flange, not the actual pipe itself. I'm going to make a cut here, and about an inch to the side, I'll make another cut and tap that part out. And here are my 2 cuts, one right there and right there. And I'll carefully punch that portion out. First inner chunk is removed, and what I'll do is make a couple additional cuts and continue removing this inner insert. Making big progress here. One thing you can run into is little frays like this still remain after removing that insert, and those have to come out because if you leave those in, it'll be tough to get the new flange in. After removing 100% of the old flange, it is now time to cut the top pipe flush with the floor. And I'm actually going to take a few minutes and think how I want to do this. I may just cut the pipe, or I may make a marking with a marker and use a Dremel tool to cut some of the tile away. And as I'm thinking about this, I noticed that the back portion of the pipe is flush with the tile. However, the front portion is not. And I've got a little bit of wax buildup here, very sticky. And what I might have to do is actually cut away some of this tile to make this portion right here as level as possible. At this point, I've got my Dremel tool and I've got a circular saw. If you have not seen this set up on a Dremel tool and you want to use this, definitely check out the link scrolling above. It shows you how to install that little housing that secures the circular saw. And if you're using a Dremel tool or a similar cutting device, make sure you wear your safety glasses. From here, I'll reposition the camera and get started. And again, we are going to cut this pipe flush with the original concrete floor. Real quick, what I have done is make 2 cuts, and I made them in a way that is flush with the floor, so now I have a starting point or marking inside the plumbing pipe to work from. From here, I should just be able to carefully pop this off, as you see there. And that went as smooth as I was hoping it would. And as you can see, here's the old part cut away. Made a mess. Time to vacuum and clean up. Spent about 20 seconds and vacuumed the floor. And here is the new flange. And let's reposition the camera and show you how this new one works. Here it is. This is an Odie brand. As you can see here, this is a white PVC flange. And this is a 4-inch size. So when you're out shopping for flanges, just ensure that you're purchasing the right size. In our case, again, 4 inches. And that measurement can be obtained by measuring the hole that we just cut. And you can see a black rubber ring on the bottom portion of the flange. And this is a tapered design. And what that means is basically the bottom portion of the flange is smaller in diameter than the top up here. And you see this thread? You can actually turn this rubber gasket. Right now it's upside down, and I'm turning it clockwise. And as you turn this clockwise and rotate this rubber gasket up the thread near the bottom portion of the flange, it actually expands because, again, the shape of the flange right here as the thread goes up expands, or it gets larger in diameter. And that will come in very helpful to create that watertight seal. Pretty neat design. Back to the plumbing, and I spun that rubber gasket back down a bit. You can basically insert this, and you can notice it spins very easily. And we don't want that because that's not really creating any watertight seal. What we'll do is pull out all the paper towel that was plugging the sewer gas line and vacuum any and all remaining debris that may have fallen in there. Paper towel removed from the plumbing, and from here all we're going to do is properly set that rubber seal. And again, it goes to the floor, which is good, and it rotates too easily. Not good. Flip it upside down, rotate it clockwise, and feed that O-ring or rubber gasket up the thread of the flange. And again, that will help extend that rubber seal. Making progress, it's about halfway up. And there is a little bit of resistance, however, still too loose. Let's keep rotating that rubber gasket up. And it's about 3/4 of the way up. And it's extended, and maybe a little too much. Oh, not bad. And the instructions say it should be positioned in a way where that rubber gasket creates enough friction where you have to tap this down with a rubber mallet. In our case, that looks about right. Let's go grab a rubber mallet. Very important step, DIYers, prior to tapping that flange further into the plumbing and properly seating it with that mallet. Make sure it is properly configured and oriented as shown here. And you've got 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock where the T portion or head of the Johnny bolt is going to go in here and slide up and lock in place to allow you to secure the toilet bowl to the flange. And if these are not properly aligned, you will never get a secure fit. You will always have a loose and wobbly toilet. That would not be good. In addition, before I tap this in, if you press this all the way down prior to aligning it properly, and then you go to turn it or rotate it until you've got the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock with the inserts, you could actually be loosening up the rubber gasket or ring inside the plumbing, which would be weakening that watertight seal. That would not be good either. In front of me now is a set of titanium drill bits, and I've got some concrete screws, the blue ones, and there's these sizes. And here's the new Johnny bolt. What I want to check before I start drilling and securing that flange with these screws, I want to make sure my Johnny bolt head, that little T portion, goes in and clears the bottom portion of the flange and lower tile. As you can see, that side looks good, and that side looks good too. And here are my 4 drill points. And I got lucky on these two. There is no tile interfering as well as that one, but a teeny tiny edge piece of the tile is showing there. I may have to just chip that off. Again, here's the size of the screws I'm going to be using. I'm going to grab them, just ensuring that they go through the holes, and that is perfect. And starting small, I've got my Craftsman drill, and I've got a 3/16 bit and that blue painter's tape. I basically set a screw from the bit tip all the way back, and that is how far I want to drill into the concrete. First hole is drilled, as you can see, and in our case, these are T30s. And that 3/16 was a good fit. Hand tighten it first, and I'm going to use socket and ratchet with a T30. And as you screw this in, apply some friendly downward pressure and go slow. No need to rush it. And as far as the drill depth, I didn't have to drill as deep because you've got this 1/4 inch flange that the screw is going to stop at when it's tight. Real quick, I took the screw out and I'm going to vacuum up that loose concrete. As I screw this tight, I got a towel to prevent the sewer gases from coming out. And again, just go slow, no need to rush this portion. And I'm going to do one at a time, drill and secure a screw, and then move to the 180-degree point up top. Making progress. That is so far secure right there, but I can still kind of pop it up on the upper end. I now have 3 screws in, and this is solid, but I want that 4th screw. Again, this is the one that was obstructed by the edge of the tile. I used this little flathead screwdriver, insert it right there, tapped it with a hammer, and broke that tile portion off, and slid it down and vacuumed it out of this little groove here. All 4 screws are secured, and that flange is solid. And do not over tighten these. However, you want to screw them in to a point where they are below the surface or top portion of the flange. And there is a little beveled cutout or insert to ensure that the screw head will go below the top portion of the flange. And again, that is not moving. DIYers, I'll be real with you. I thought these titanium drill bits were going to be perfect for the job. However, I used that 3/16 and then stepped it up to a 13/64, and these would not cut anything. I grabbed my standard Craftsman drill bit set that my parents got me for Christmas, and it ate that concrete alive. It was no contest to the Craftsman drill bits. I was very pleased with how those performed. And that's it. We now have a brand new flange, flush with the floor and properly aligned, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, and now it is time to install our new toilet that we couldn't install because the old flange was installed about a 1/4 inch above the floor, and that was not cool. And in the event that you are joining us from the previous video where we were taking on the steps of installing a toilet, however, we ran into this problem, definitely check out the link scrolling above. It'll take you right back to that video. We will continue right where we left off and install that brand new toilet. Thanks again for watching. From here, do us a favor, below the video, you'll see that thumbs up icon. Click on that, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Definitely ring your YouTube bell. That would be very helpful to us. We would really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching. And DIYers, real quick before I forget, in the event that you are wondering if this new flange will play a role in the event that you ever retile your bathroom floor, here's how easy it will be. All you have to do is loosen up those 4 screws that we just screwed into the concrete and remove them, and then you can just slide that flange up and out of the plumbing pipe down below. You will not have to chisel it. You will not have to grab a hammer. You will not have to cut it with a saw or Dremel tool like we just did the previous one. Again, you just remove those screws, pull it up and out of the pipe, and remove that flange and set it in a safe location, and the removal of the current floor can be done and the new floor can be installed. And then you just ship that flange right back down in that pipe, align the holes, and screw it tight. So again, in the event that you were curious on that, hopefully that answers the question.